My philosophy has always been that life begins at the end of our comfort zone. For me, my comfort zone, I've expanded over the years, but there are still things that are not natural to me. Uh, Being on camera, being in front of an audience, public speaking, that's a difficult task for me to undertake. Um, the podcast will ultimately be predominantly interview style, which will make this process exponentially easier for me and for guests and for viewers. But I think as a podcast that dives into autism, uh, that it's important for me to share moments like this, moments where I may struggle in expanding my own comfort zone, because it's important to me to kind of show that rawness and uh, that piece of me, because it's something that I usually do tend to hide away from others. It's something that's not visible for the most part. The challenges I face on a day-to-day basis or behind camera, those are things that are usually personal, private. But in terms of the podcast, I think it's important to take an opportunity like this on a day where I may struggle, and use that as a vehicle to be able to express that to other people and allow them to see the challenges that autistic adults face. So today I learned a lesson that the distance between my brain and the microphone is greater than any distance I've ever run. I spent a lot of time in my own head, thinking, planning. Uh, it's part of my process. It doesn't come out of my brain easily. It doesn't flow from my brain to my lips to the microphone to the camera effortlessly, as anyone that's seen this video or seen similar videos can attest to. So let's talk a little bit about the comfort zone and getting outside of it. It's always been my philosophy that life begins at the end of our comfort zone. That's where growth happens. That's where we add value to ourselves personally. But that process is different for everybody, and everybody's comfort zone is different. As an introvert, as an autistic adult, being on camera is about the most unnatural experience for me. There's really not much in terms of exposure where it feels like everything is just raw, unfiltered. You just you and the camera, the microphone, and the distance between my brain and the microphone is greater than any distance I've ever run. This is coming from a man who's run 5 marathons, 3 half marathons, and many other races of various distances. The words don't flow from my brain to my lips to the microphone to the camera easily. It's not a smooth process. The format of the podcast is really designed to be an interview style, where we'll have guests, and we'll have professionals, we'll have parents, we'll have a host, we'll have a large variety of guests that we can tap into their knowledge. And for me personally, that will be a much more natural experience, the natural back and forth, give and take during a conversation, than it is sitting here in front of a camera trying to record content and provide meaningful information to our audience. Today's episode really was meant to focus on advocacy. Today happens to be Father's Day. I've now spent the better part of 5.5 hours here in the studio with nothing really to show for my effort. Got a lot of bloopers, which I will include. I will be happy to include some of those bloopers in the finished version of this. I think it'll lend some credibility, and it'll give everybody a sense of just how nerve-wracking it has been just today. But again, it's as we go through this, we want to move to more of an interview style. But I think it's important to have these standalone episodes even if they're happen to be shorter. It'll give me a chance to show the side, my autistic side, that wouldn't normally show up as much in a setting where I'm more comfortable. Um, and my frustration with this process today, uh, and trying to put together the video the way I wanted to, uh, and being frustrated with the results that I was getting. Um, Again, that's to me, that's just another part of my autism. I'm not angry. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with myself. So I talk about, where did the turn come from? Maybe it wasn't a turn at all. Maybe it's, as an autistic adult, as somebody who's neurodiverse, I think we all walk two paths simultaneously. You have you have the path you're walking as somebody who's trying to fit in and blend in with society, but you're also walking a path, a more difficult path, where that, blending in and masking and doing the things that you believe are acceptable. You're walking that path at the same time. It's, it's two versions of the same person. There's always one that's conscious of the other. And we do our best to keep the autistic side of ourselves kind of to ourselves, away from public view. It's something that most of us are trained not to show. It's they call it masking for a reason. It's we're hiding it. We're hiding that behavior. So, what is the toll of masking? Uh, it, the toll, it in terms of fatigue, in terms of burnout, uh, it's definitely, it's not calculable, but it's tangible. It's something that we all deal with, and I find as I've gotten older, that I think that has taken a larger toll on me. After having given it some thought, the fatigue and the burnout that are associated with masking, I think it's more of a burden. It's just because you've done it so long. And the older we get, when we're young and we're masking, we only have to mask in certain situations. And we may have to mask in front of a smaller subset of people, maybe friends, teachers, families. So it's a smaller list. Now, as you get into adolescence and early adulthood, your circles are widening in most cases. Whether you're going to college, whether you're whatever you're doing at that point in your life, your circles are expanding. You're probably masking more because you're introduced to new people. There's situations you're trying to overcome. But again, it's still relatively manageable. As you move into being a real adult, and you talk about taking steps, like milestones, like being, getting married, your first corporate job, your first real job, after you leave high school or secondary school, your circle is ever expanding. The amount of time that you spend masking and the environments you spend masking in, it's becoming larger every day, and the experiences that you're having, they almost become exponential as you get older. You're maturing. You're going through other milestones in your life. If you're fortunate enough, like myself, to be married and have children, those are all additional situations that present additional challenges. I found that masking for not necessarily masking for me, but as I moved into the part of my life where I was diagnosed with autism, it became more of a concern of, well, do I convey this to anybody? Do I just keep it to myself? Um, if I came out into the open with my autism, how would that impact my life, my family's life? Uh, what would happen in that circumstance? Um, I ultimately decided it was a good thing, that in sharing my own experience, that could help others. And that's always the way I've approached my autism since I became aware that I was autistic. Um, I'd rather use it as a vehicle to help others if I can. And that's really what this podcast is rooted in. It is true advocacy. It is my desire to help others in whatever way I can. If that's through communicating with others or showing my true self, sharing my experiences, then so be it. Um, but once you dip your toe into that pool, it can get deep pretty quick. So it's just something we kind of have to get used to. For me, uh, this is the next phase uh, of my own development. Even at 56 years old, having been diagnosed with autism 10 years ago, um, I'm still evolving. Not only as a person, an adult, but as an autistic adult. So I continue to face challenges with that. And in terms of seeking out opportunities like the podcast to increase my advocacy and try to help others. Again, it requires it's more mental energy that it takes uh, in something that I'm not obligated to do. It's something I want to do. It's something I believe in. Uh, but it's not, I'm not obligated to, and I've chosen this path. But again, it's just when we talk about the toll and we talk about the mental energy that we spend, during the course of any given day. Any one of us only has so much gas on our tank. Um, and I've read articles and books, and I mean, there's been uh, so much research on it, about the energy levels and the just how much do autistic adults have in their tank for each day, and what is the cost associated with all the masking, the interactions. And I think the truth is that we deplete our energy supply a lot quicker, um, and that's where the fatigue and some of the problems come in. It's kind of when we reach that point where it's like, okay, we just had enough for today. It's some of us shut down, some of us we need to kind of re-energize. And we all have our own ways of doing that. And some of us are able to push beyond that into overdrive and maybe into the red zone. And again, that could be problematic when if you're pushing yourself uh, to an extent where it's causing you enough fatigue, mental fatigue, where it's going to spill over at some point. So these are all things that we have to take in consideration as we go through each day. Uh, and there's just times you got to throw up the white flag. So what does waving a white flag look like? You get to that point where, you're out of gas, you're out of mental energy as an autistic adult. And you just say, time out. It's you get to that point, your brain is just, we're done. We're overwhelmed. We can't handle anymore today. What does that look like? It looks like a lot of different things. Things that people don't necessarily always associate with autism. Could be somebody lashing out. It could be somebody shutting down. I've been guilty of both. I guess it depends on the situation. It depends on the severity. It depends on other circumstances. It's not cut and dry. For myself, I know when I get burned out, I tend to lash out. I tend to get, I kind of get a little angry. Not more than a little angry sometimes. Sometimes I get, uh, uh, angry than I like to admit. But it's a defense mechanism. It's at least for myself, it's kind of built in. Uh, it's something that's rooted deeply. Uh, it's really ingrained in who I am. I have the tendency to shut down sometimes. Again, just being overwhelmed. Just you get to the point where you just your brain just says, you can't. You've had it. He's not going to do anymore. You can't will yourself out of it. Sometimes the best thing is, it's kind of like weathering a storm. So you're seeking shelter from the storm. You're seeking harbor in the tempest. When you get to that point, everybody's different. You don't know how long it's going to last sometimes. I mean, I've had it last for minutes. I've had it last for hours. I've had it last for days. It really depends on the circumstances surrounding the reason that caused me to get to that state. Sometimes it's a certain situation, and it's something that it's not. It's something that you're unable to resolve in the manner in which you want to resolve it. It's something that eats away at you. It's something. It's just something that you personally have difficulty putting aside, and until you put that aside, until you get past it, it encompasses your whole being. It's just and the more you grapple with it, the deeper that can get. Because you're unable to process the way you're feeling about something. You're unable to express it. You're unable to express it in a positive manner. We're always able to express it, but doing that in a positive manner, that's the real difficulty. How do I convey how I'm feeling without going overboard, without getting to the point of no return? It's in all my years, I have not solved that riddle. Some days I do a better job than others in not getting to that point. There's sometimes my brain just automatically skips ahead, and it's like, you could be doing fine, all day, and it could be early in the day, just before you really spent most of your mental energy, and all of a sudden something so overwhelming happens that you just, there you go, you just automatically, you're done. Okay, so the question remains, how did I get here to this point today? We discussed it a little bit at the beginning. Again, 5.5, 6 hours of futility, not being able to produce what I wanted in the manner in which I wanted to produce it. Had other things I really wanted to get done today. It is Father's Day. I did have to get to the grass today. That's going to have to wait till another day. You got to take the wins with the losses. This is what I refer to as the autistic mile. A mile for an autistic adult or an autistic person in general is longer than a mile for somebody who's neurotypical or not autistic. It's longer, it's harder, it's more difficult. Some days are better than others, but like I said, you got to take the wins with the losses. So the best thing I can do is be honest and share this process with our audience, so they can see the kind of the nerves that get exposed. The grass is going to get cut tomorrow, the next day. I'm still going to go home and have a great Father's Day dinner with my family. So those are the things that we really have to concentrate on and focus on when you have setbacks like today. When we run into walls or we feel like we've exhausted our mental energy. I'm not to the point where I shut down. I wouldn't be here producing this version of the podcast if I had gotten to the point where I was going to shut down today. But it's a little demoralizing, the fact that I didn't accomplish what I wanted to get accomplished. As someone who prides himself on his work ethic, on the fact that I am hyper focused is the only reason I'm that I've sat here this long and gotten to this point where I'm creating this this raw version, so to speak. But that's kind of where we are today, and that's kind of how we are almost every day. It's just you just you gotta take the good with the bad and work through it, as they say. So in any case, I hope this is something that is something that other people can learn and have some takeaways from this. It's I understand in times like this. I'm not the only one dealing with situations like this. But if I can share my if I can share my experiences with others, that's probably the best that can come from it. Until next time, this is Jim Gaffney with the Autistic Mile. Have a good one.